Welcome to another real-time strategy top 10 video. Thank you for finding and clicking on this video, and I hope you enjoy it. Today I will be discussing the top 10 strongest units in the game. If you are familiar with my previous top 10 worst units in the game, I will be using the same data and same factoring that I did to get that list for this one, but with some tweaks in method. If you are only interested in this list, skip ahead a bit because I will be explaining my methods in the coming minutes. I have gotten some excellent feedback and some very useful tips on how to improve my extrapolation of data in my previous top 10 worst video. So thank you to all who mentioned some constructive improvements I could make it fairer and more median than average. As many said, the previous top 10 worst units could be titled the weakest units than worst, which after reflection I agree on, so I have amended the title to show this. Because what's the point of having an open forum of discussion in the comments if you don't take on the criticism and feedback, right? I changed it because the list was created to see which units had the lowest stats and performed the worst in a fight and for their money, which invariably ended up being the weakest units. Worst units is a much tougher list to define than just by extrapolating the lowest data, money cost, abilities, etc. Because it's about units that fail at what they are meant to do and for their price point, not just based on their weak stats and cost. I would need to compare every single unit against each other in minute detail to create the true worst list, overdoing that for just the bottom 20 that the spreadsheet worked out for me. So expect a full top 10 worst units video with your guys' feedback in mind in the near future. But for now, we are looking at the strongest 10 units in the game. This information is based on entering every single line of unit statistics into a spreadsheet and checking the highest on average and using a median formula to highlight which stat lines are the strongest overall. I then compared the top 20 units together, their cost, abilities, and made each fight against each other to see how well they performed on a one-on-one fight to help me balance my opinion, with no lords or buffs affecting the stat lines with the help of a mod. The list was then edited to account for their wins and losses, and finally their cost per unit. I also then factored in how fair a fight a ranged unit like a Luminarch was against a Dragon 1v1 and fiddled with a list to account for this. This is how I reached my conclusion of the top 10 strongest units in the game. There are no lords or regiments of renown in this list. But thanks for listening to the boring bit of the video and for getting through the rambling. I hope you enjoy stuff like this, lore and history videos and daily gameplay. Then why not click subscribe and join me when you want to see the content that I put up day by day. I swear I can be entertaining sometimes. Anyway, let's get to the top 10 strongest units. Number 10. Savage Orc Big Uns. Now this one surprised me, so before you start typing on the keyboard, let me explain. Even in testing, they surprised me. They not only hit the top 15 in both tables I created when listing the data that with your guys' feedback in mind, but they also beat the 3 units beneath them in the stats table and also beat the 2 above them in a fight, which was a War Hydra and a Charybdis. No armor obviously is a big weakness for these guys, but the price for what you get, only 900 gold, which, compared to the others on this list, is definitely the least expensive by at least 300 gold. They are definitely the most cost effective. But this list isn't about cost effectiveness, it's about strength, and they have good stats in this regards. They have a good weapon strength at 42, HP pool of 10,800 and melee attack of 40, which means they deal out some serious damage in a fight, and even with their no armor, manage to stick around for longer than you would expect. They traded extremely well with the next 2 units on this list in their fights. A surprise to be sure at number 10, but a welcome one. Number 9. Black Orcs. Slightly more health than their Savage Orc Big Un cousins, but their armor of 110 make them one of the tankiest units in the game. They have good leadership for an Orc, and their weapon strength is extremely good. They are slower, more expensive, and have less melee attack at 36, but they stick around longer in a fight, and their armor-piercing weapons make them a stronger unit overall. Their health pool, mixed with their armor and damage-dealing capabilities, mean they are one of the strongest units at number 9. Number 8. Temple Guard. This was a close pick between the Black Orcs and the Temple Guard. On paper, the Black Orcs are better. They have less armor than the Black Orcs, less melee attack, less weapon strength, and cost 50 gold more. However, they have more leadership, better melee defense, and are shielded, and are much faster. They also have more models per unit. They beat the Black Orcs in a fight, and they did it by a good enough amount to stick them at number 8 over the Orcs. They don't have the rampage issue that their other lizard brothers have, and they have good abilities like armor piercing, predatory senses, and charger defense against large foes. Not only are these guys tougher than the Black Orcs, with all this in mind, they are stronger too if they can beat them in a fight, which is why they are number 8. Number 7. The Necrosphinx. This unit is a monster. Weapon strength of 550, 45 melee attack, 68 speed, 100 armor, and a charge bonus of 52. It has armor piercing, causes fear and terror, has anti-large, is immune to terror, and has really good weapon length. It's not great against an elite unit of infantry, but that's not its purpose. It's a monster killer. It's an incredibly strong unit on paper, and one that is always daunting to face in a fight. It's only number 7 because, as stated, against most elite infantry it will lose due to its low health and the fact that most elite infantry are armor piercing, but its high stats kept it at number 7 over the others in this spreadsheet and this list. Number 6. Ancient Treeman. This one was not expected, I must say, but it proved me wrong in testing. It has a strong health pool and very good armor, weaker melee stats than its Treeman brothers, but still higher than average, and has excellent melee defense. However, the thing that made this guy number 6 was its ability to use the Law of Life spells. This versatility in its use bumped it up to number 6 because not only is it a strong caster, but it's a strong caster that survives and does major damage in a fight. He also causes magical damage to most physical attacks, causes terror and fear, encourages nearby units, and can heal them, and has charged defense against large foes. He is expensive, but that doesn't make him any less strong. Number 5. The Hellpit Abomination. Hitting number 5 is the Hellpit Abomination. This monster has one of the highest health pools in the game, with 12,100 HP. 90 leadership, which is ridiculous for a Skaven. 42 melee attack, 500 weapon strength, and even has armor piercing, which is a running thing on this list. Obviously, it also causes terror and fear, but the thing that makes this guy stand out more is the fact that he can regenerate and has the too horrible to die special rule, which means when he is close to death, he either regenerates a portion of his health or summons a unit of Skaven from its corpse. This thing is not only a monster in melee, but is incredibly tough to kill, which makes it the 5th strongest unit in the game. The price is good too, compared to other monster units on this list, at 1,800 gold. Number 4. Giant. Not pinning it down to a single giant, the Norscan giant, Chaos, etc. The normal giant variants are all incredibly strong units. A huge health pool, 100 leadership, 550 weapon strength, and 65 melee attack. This thing hits hard, and can stick around long enough to do some major damage to any unit he comes across. He is relatively cheap for a monster, and even has a little bit of armor. He hasn't got a great melee defense, but he is anti-infantry, armor piercing, and causes fear and terror. So get this guy against any top tier unit, and he will most likely do a lot of damage, or win. He will most likely even make them rout before he does with his high leadership and causes terror effects. And even if they are or aren't armoured, he has it covered. A very strong unit to have, and one of the strongest units in the game. Number 3. Chaos Chosen. These next two were a very close one, and I think many of you may want to swap these next two with each other, but on this list, the Chaos Chosen got to number 3. Specifically, out of the 3 variants, the great weapon ones peak the top of the stats tables in both average and median. They have a huge armor stat of 120, very high leadership of 85, are quite slow, a big melee attack of 48, melee defense of 46, weapon strength of 50, and they cost less than you would think with these stats at 1450 gold. These guys are incredible. They can take down almost any unit a monster put against them. Their only issue is their 28 speed, which I can find, so they can easily get outrun or maybe flanked due to their also smaller unit size. The only reason these guys didn't get to number 2 is because the only extras they have are that they are armor piercing and are armored. Also they can hide, if you can count that. No terror or fear causing traits, no armor sundering. They have high defense and melee stats. They are without a doubt one of the strongest units in the game. Number 2. The Hero Titan. This one was a surprise, and I'm sure it will be a controversial one, but I was as surprised as you probably are. The spreadsheet marked it as not only number 2 statistically on average, but also on median. It's got one of the highest health pools in the game, 100 armor, 52 melee attack, 45 melee defense, 550 weapon strength, and causes both fear and terror. It's a construct, so its low leadership of 60 doesn't hurt it too much due to its immunity to terror or routing in general. He is armor piercing and armoured, but these next 2 is what, like the Treeman Ancient, make him number 2. He is a caster, and does magical damage. He has Shem's Burning Gaze, which is a strong ranged attack, but most importantly he has Spirit Leech, which does direct damage to the unfortunate soul you cast it against. Both of these without using up any of your Winds of Magic reserve due to them being bound spells. He's very good, quite versatile, and the middle ground of the Kemrian War Sphinx's anti-infantry and the Necrosphinx's anti-monster. A well-deserved number 2. Number 1. The Warmammoth with Chaos Warshrine. I'm not surprised a mammoth topped this list. They have the biggest health pool in the game with 14,104 health, 70 armor, which is better than average, 40 speed, which seems fast for a mammoth, faster than giants or orcs, and 525 weapon strength. They only have 34 melee defense, but their weapon reach is huge, and their melee attack of 46 is very good. They are armored, cause fear and terror, are anti-infantry, but also give nearby units a +10 to leadership. Their charge bonus is massive. The thing that makes the Chaos Warshrine the best pick though, and maybe makes it the strongest unit in the game, is the fact that with a shrine it gains Unbreakable. It will never run away, which means to beat it, not only do you have to get through its 70 armor, but you have to whittle down 14,104 health points and survive its monumental sweeping attacks. Granted, it is a massive target for archers and artillery, but this is without a doubt the strongest unit in the game. And that's my list. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed and can take this information into your future battles. Remember, this is an opinionated list based on true stats, so if you guys disagree, you disagree. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, or just enjoyed listening to me drone on about spreadsheets, then think about subscribing. There's plenty more to come.